Good morning. Welcome to Warm Portugal. It's been a while since I've done my last teaching, but a lot has been happening. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about the experience and a bit of a testimony, because I think what I went through, many of us go through on a daily basis. You know, there's a difference between believing for something and having the faith. I had to learn how to deal with things when it doesn't go my way, how to keep the faith and not have that disappointment. I've also learned that sometimes that disappointment is more about our convenience. So if things are not going and it's not convenient in our life, we like to throw our toys. I went back to South Africa, my husband and I, to renew my passport, which we would think is nothing complicated, it's not a big deal. And no, it's not a big deal. But life throws little things at us on a daily basis, which is not often a big deal, but can become a big deal. And the question is, how do we deal with these little oppositions that comes to life? To cut a long story short, my passport was supposed to be finished in 2 weeks. Well, that was in my mind that it can't take more than 10 working days. That's after all what the website was promising. The inconvenience was that it wasn't finished in those 10 days and that I had to change my flight. To be honest, before this journey started, I had a feeling that I was a bit too optimistic about it. There was a tiny voice that said, maybe it won't be so quick. But I took that as negative. Now we know as Christians we shouldn't have negative thoughts, so you just rebuke it there and there, devil, get behind me. And I think positive. I speak life over myself. And then it didn't happen. So the first thing that came to my mind was, God, you don't love me because look at this predicament. And that was immediately the attack of Satan. Satan immediately wanted me to have doubt. Secondly, I wanted to throw a tantrum because I have everything planned. Now I had to be flexible and change that. The first thing that came then to my mind was, no, wait, this is not how I should now show my faith. And then we come in with the question of faith. What is faith? We know in Hebrews 1 it says faith is things that we can't see but that we hope for. So I keep on hoping. Now I knew at the end of the day, even though I didn't know for how long it will take, I will get my passport. But then speaking to other people, I realized that even though I had to deal with something as simple as a passport, there were other people that were dealing with a lot more serious things where they also have faith for things to work out well and it doesn't, and hoping for things and it's just not happening. It could be selling a house, a new job, dealing with a bad report from the doctor that there's cancer. We all deal with things, and how do we cope with it? You see, we are in a fallen world, and the first thing we have to realize that it's not God, that it may not even be Satan, it's just life in itself. But we have that choice. Are we going to walk in faith? Are we going to walk like a Christian? Or are we just going to be like the rest of the world, moaning and complaining? Now, I have to be honest with you. After 3.5 hours in a queue, and I haven't made much progress, I did moan and groan a little bit. It was really not very convenient. Secondly, with the load shedding in South Africa, that didn't help the process either. But then God is so good. And this morning, that's why I decided to talk about this today. Isaiah 65 verse 24 was my little bread for the day. I will answer them before they even call to me. While they are still talking to me about their needs, I will go ahead and answer their prayers. You see, it wasn't for God at all a big surprise that my passport wasn't going to be ready. But already He had people in my path that was going to help me. One of these angels was the lady working at the Home Affairs, and Susie. And she was just such a godsend to me. Even though she couldn't do more than encourage me, do a few phone calls, keep checking for me what the progress is on it. Her love and her beautiful personality made things so much easier for me. And that made me then look at her and see, well, you guys are just there doing what you have to do. You're not really the ones who's doing the actual job. The other thing we have to remember is that everything has to fall in place for your, in my case, passport to come in. It's not that person I am directly talking to. It gets sent away and it's somebody else who has to do it. But there's always someone in your life, in your situation, to encourage you. It could be that you are that person encouraging others that's waiting for something, or who's going through a bad health report, or is having to make decisions, because that's the second thing that happens. When you're in this, let's call it a crisis, you have to decide how you're going to live. And I had to remember, come on, I'm a Christian, I'm a mature Christian. I have God on my side and I'm going to trust Him. And I'm going to be quiet, stop moaning and complaining and listening to what He's telling me to do, because I have to make decisions. I need to know at what stage to phone to change my flight. So you see, we have to be careful that in our faith that we don't get confused, because that is the first thing the devil will use to attack you. Is this God loving me or not? And then don't fall into bitterness. Mine was easy and I knew sooner or later I will get out of the country and things will be fine. Okay, it messed up my other plans, but at the end of the day, don't be bitter. And the only way we can really not go into our flesh is to look at Jesus, to look at the Bible, to see what the Word says, to go to Isaiah to say, God, I know you already have it and you've got plans for me, and I'm not going to let this little obstacle get me off track to what is the final goal, because there's always going to be little obstacles. But write it down and see how you've responded, and next time say, okay, I messed up there and there, I'm going to do this better. I've had disappointments before. The first time I had a huge disappointment, I was sulking for 3 months. This time I realized it and I said, no, I'm not. My other plans are not working out, but God has a plan for me. I didn't really have to go to South Africa to renew my passport, but once I was there, it showed me other things and other reasons why I had to be there. And another door that I eventually wanted to open up by itself without me having to do it. God has us in our hands, and He wants the best for us, and we must always remember that. You know, faith is not a principle. I was listening to Barry Bennett's teachings the other day, and it really blessed me when he said, faith is not a principle or a belief system that exists alone to be used when needed. Faith for believers is the expression of a relationship with the Father. It is based on communion with the Father. You see, if you don't have that relationship with the Father, then when these little obstacles come into your life, you will just fall apart. But when you have a good relationship and you know how much God loves you and that He's always there for you, you will never doubt Him. And you'll just say, okay, Lord, we have a problem here. How are we going to solve it? I don't know how to, but I know you have a plan. I want to read to you in Timothy. No, 1 Timothy, and I think it's in verse 12. For the which cause I also suffer these things. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that He is able to keep that which I have committed unto Him against that day. So if we know our God, if we know how much He loves us, then we won't let these little obstacles in life get us down or get us off our track. We as humans sometimes think all with our brains, and we want to see the logic in things. Why did this go wrong? Why is that not working out? Maybe I should have done that, do that. But we read in Romans 10 verse 12, for with the heart man believeth into righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. So we need to have, faith has to come from the heart, to know In the life, looking at things, it doesn't look very promising. But if you think with your heart and you trust in the Lord and you have your eyes on Him, there is always an outcome. And you look back and you think, well, why did I doubt? Now, my story didn't end there. I did get onto the plane eventually, 10 days later. But then the blessing that I didn't see at the time was I had 10 extra time to spend with a very, very dear friend of mine. And that 10 days with her and her mother was so precious to me. That was a blessing. Even though I suffer on the one side with not knowing what's going to be the outcome, how long it's going to take, I had this precious time with a friend. And I'm so grateful to God for that precious time that we had together. I arrived in Faro Airport after I've been in Frankfurt for 6 hours, and my suitcase didn't arrive with me. It's hot. There is no air conditioning in this room. I've had a very long journey. You can imagine, 10.5-hour flight from South Africa, sitting 6 hours in Frankfurt, another 3-hour flight, 2.5-hour flight to Faro, and my suitcase isn't there. And there's already a few people in the queue who didn't receive their luggage. That tests your faith, that tests your patience. But we know God says that we need hope, we need faith, and we need patience. And I had to trust all those three things because I had to make a decision again. And I said, Lord, you've been good to me till now. I'm sure that this will also have a good outcome. Take deep breaths and queue up. Lovely lady helping me once again. And there was God's blessing again. They knew exactly where my suitcase was. It just was still in Frankfurt. The people in front of me were far worse off because they had both their suitcases missing and they couldn't tell them when they were going to get it, and they're here on holiday. What a way to start your holiday. For me, it was not a big deal. I didn't really need the stuff in my suitcase. I was going home and all my stuff that was missing is winter stuff, and I come here to 39 degrees. Definitely I won't need that. And 2 days later, everything gets unspoiled, delivered right to the front door. But I kept my calm. I took a deep breath. I wanted to be disappointed. I wanted to complain, and I thought, no, that poor lady. And all I could do was to bless her and say, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this, and when I looked behind me, there was a long queue of people who didn't get their stuff. These things happen. And if we think we're going to be in this world just because we're Christians and everything is going to be an easy walk, we are very wrong. But when you have God on your side and you know how much He loves you and you have that close relationship and fellowship with the Father, then you can only be a victor. You will not be a victim. And have that attitude. So, what do you do in these situations? Don't panic. Go to the Word. What does the Word say? Take deep breaths. Don't throw your toys. Once you behave badly, things will just get worse. Have a smile on your face and say, how would Jesus cope with this? It's not always easy. I know that. But I get through this and I look back and I said, I had victory. These other things I'm hoping for doesn't look very positive that it's going to happen, but I know it will happen when it's God's timing. Sometimes it's just not His time for things to happen. Sometimes He allows us to be tested because it brings us closer to Him. God is not the one to punish us. He's not the one to make bad things happen to us, but He will see us through it. He won't take us around the Red Sea, but He will walk through the Red Sea with us. And when we go to the other side, we can celebrate. There's always a rainbow at the other end. I hope this encouraged you. And if you're dealing with anything, be encouraged. It will come to an end. Bad things come always to an end, and then there's something good again. And if there's people around you suffering, be with them, encourage them, pray for them, pray for each other. Thank you for watching. Please share this video, and I hope that next week we could have another one. If there's anything you would like prayer for, please give me a comment. And you can follow us on Facebook and on YouTube and Rumble. Have a nice day.